Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you're probably going to see some contractors walking behind us. We've got some construction going on in the house. We're in the middle of a master bathroom redo, but because of that, sometimes the dogs bark. And you know what? We're just going for it anyway. And so I want to do a different Monday Fire today that I'll let you know that I'm a little bit nervous about doing because the truth is I'm not I don't have a degree in ministry. I am not a pastor. I am not a theologian. I'm just a girl who loves Jesus. And I want to share with you what I know about when we're woke up in the nighttime and when sleep is eluding us and the different things that I've learned over the years about sometimes what that means and what God's trying to do during that time. And the reason I thought this would be an interesting podcast is because I know for myself, God is waking me up regularly in the middle of the night right now, and I know that a lot of my friends, a lot of those of you that I connect with, especially on Instagram, you've told me the same thing. And God's never a God of randomness. Okay, so a lot of times you'll start noticing patterns, and so I just want to kind of share with you what I know, and I'm going to read to you some of what started this whole conversation, which was on Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, it was literally several months ago. And I'm going to read to you what I posted, okay? Because I went back and I've still got it saved under like faith. So if you follow me on Instagram, go to the round bubble that says faith, the highlight reel that says faith. And this is what I said. For those of you who have been waking up in the middle of the night, feeling the need to pray, I love the Bible scripture, awaken, O you sleepers, in Ephesians 5:14. And I said that we don't serve a God of coincidence, what I just told you. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, it's intentional. And so I'm gonna just keep reading exactly as I put, and then we'll talk about it. But the nighttime are broken into 4 watches spiritually. A watch means to be alert, and we're called to be watchmen on the wall. That's in the book of Isaiah. Sometimes God will wake you to pray for you and your family. Oftentimes, God will wake you to pray for others. So when you're woken up during the night hours and feel the need to pray, pay close attention to the timing because different times are significant. Also, waking up at the same time several nights in a row is very significant, which I was doing for quite a while. Pay attention to how you feel in the middle of the night. You may feel so heavy, so burdened, troubled, unable to rationalize things. Don't try. 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. is the third watch, and this is the highest time of satanic activity during the night. Meaning that, and if you don't think that there's satanic activity going on in the nighttime, like, just let me reassure you that there is nothing to be afraid of, but the fight is not against flesh and blood. The fight is in the spiritual realm. And so people that practice witchcraft are mostly at the 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. hour. Okay. So therefore, to combat that, this is the third watch. That's where most spiritual warfare takes place. And you can find this in the book of Ephesians. A lot of people, if you suffer from nightmares, you will have them during that time. And I'm somebody that has suffered for nightmares on occasion, on and off, all of my life. I'm in a really good season with that right now, and it's not something I'm dealing with. But so if God wakes you up between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m., pray, intercede, pray for a covering over your family, pray for whomever comes to mind, call out to the Lord for mercy and protection over those who he brings to mind, war on their behalf. So if in the middle of the night, God wakes me up and I look at the clock and it's 12 to 3 a.m., I will immediately think to myself, okay, Lord, who do you want me to pray for? And the first person that comes to my mind, I will lay there and silently pray for until I feel like it's kind of that urgency, that burden has lifted, or I fall back asleep. Now, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. is called the fourth watch. And this is like the holy hour, like before the sunrise. So warfare is still needed during this time. And this watch is in particular for strategy, for protection, for preparation, for revelation, angelic activity, and expectation as morning is becoming near. And this is all what I wrote on Instagram. This is the time that your grandma used to be up praying for you. That's what I put on my Instagram story. You can still find it. And then I said, for the record, when God wakes me up in the middle of the night to pray, I almost always stay in bed and my eyes are usually closed. I just pray until the feeling lifts and I drift back off to sleep. And then I wrote, I've been awake almost every night this week, interceding and praying for children who have been involved in sex trafficking. It feels heavy and I'd rather sleep. But if God is waking you up, then it's our job to pray. And I love this Bible scripture. I even put it in my book in either the very front or the very book, but it's the scripture that says, the prayers of a righteous woman availeth much. So the prayers of a morally right woman, they're very effective. That's in James 5:16. In other words, righteous women, your prayers change things. And so I said, if so many of you like me or wake up in the middle of the night to pray for your children, children in general, children in sex trafficking, I believe with all my heart that we're needing to pray about that in the country right now. Okay. And so anyway, you can go watch that on my Instagram story. So here's what I wanted to talk about today is some of you I know are being woken up in the nighttime and your sleep is eluding you. And sometimes sleep's eluding us because you've had caffeine right before bed. Sometimes sleep's eluding you because you took a nap in the middle of the day and now you can't get to sleep. Sometimes you're not sleeping because there's a lot going on in the life, in your life and in the world. And because you are, nervous perhaps, or all kind of revved up, it's hard for your mind to settle down. So sometimes it's all that. Sometimes it's that God's waking you on purpose. So I want to encourage those of you who are being woke up in the nighttime right now. There are three things that I try to think of when I'm waking up. Okay. So number one, it's God, what do you want me to be praying for right now? Or number two, God, who do you want me to be praying for right now? Or God, what are you trying to tell me? Those are three things. Okay. Because I've experienced many of the same things in that season where I just read you all those Instagram stories. That season was, I would say 5 or 6 months ago. And I was feeling really burdened to pray for the men and women and children who are involved in sex trafficking. So every night when I was waking up, I was thinking, oh, not again, Lord. I mean, let's just be honest. Nobody wants to be, awake in the middle of the night. Oh, what do I need to pray for? And I felt like I was just supposed to be praying for the kids especially that are involved in sex trafficking. I would do that and just pray silently until I felt like that feeling lifted. Sometimes it's just a few minutes, sometimes it's 20 minutes. It's whatever God does with you. And then I'd go back to sleep. There's been other times lately when the Lord has woke me to pray specifically for people in my family and people that I'm very close to. Because when I wake up, I'll think, okay, who or what am I supposed to be praying for right now? And if I think of somebody in particular, I will absolutely begin praying for them in the nighttime. There's other times when I think, Lord, what are you waking me up for? What am I supposed to be doing right now? I can share with you that I have had the Lord wake me up in the middle of the night before to check on one of my children and to find kids up who I thought were sleeping. I can tell you that God has revealed to me things in the middle of the night that he has not in the daytime. And I think that there's many reasons that God uses the nighttime hours to speak intimately to us. Okay. So think of your life during the day. It's rush, rush, rush. Just go from Facebook to Instagram to your business to, whatever. And a lot of times it's just so noisy in the world that I wonder sometimes if it's hard for the Lord to get our attention, at least to get my attention. Right. But when you're sleeping, I think he's able to maybe get your attention a little differently. Also, if the Lord's going to wake you up to sleep from your sleep in the middle of the night, I want you to know that God redeems the time. And so there's times when I wake up and I think to myself, Lord, I'm going to be exhausted in the morning. And I never will. That investment of the time that the Lord asks you to give in the nighttime hours, it's like he redeems it somehow. He makes up for it somehow. And it's never like if I wake up, it's because there's sometimes the Lord wakes me up at 5:30 and it's like, and you're going to stay up and pray. And I'm like, really? But it's interesting how he always redeems that time. There is nothing that's an accident when it comes to the God that we serve. He's very intentional. And so if you're waking up and you're thinking about something random, I want you to think about what you're thinking about. If you wake up and your attention's on something, I want you to pay attention to what you're paying attention to. I want you to think about what maybe is the Lord trying to show you. What is he trying to reveal to you? There's secret places that the Bible talks about where the Lord is able to reveal things to us. And I know often for me, it's in the nighttime. I want you to pay attention to the time, like I talked about on my Instagram stories, that third and fourth watch. And listen, that may have been off, theologically. And Lord, if it was, I pray you just put a Band-Aid over that gap and you just make them hear only what you want to and strip the rest out of this podcast. But I know even things like a while back, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, oh man, 3 a.m. Okay. And I laid there for a little bit and I prayed and I thought, I wonder who else is up praying. So I took my iPhone, I picked it up off the nightstand and took a picture of my clock and it was 3:16. And I thought, let me just post this on Facebook and see if anybody else is up praying and wondering, how everybody else is doing. So I literally went to Facebook. I posted a picture of my alarm clock saying the time was 3:16. And hey, who else is up in the middle of the night sleeping? And some precious woman said, I can't believe he woke you up at 3:16. That's one of the most famous scriptures in the Bible, which is John 3:16, where it says that for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. If you're a believer, you'll know that scripture. And she's like, what a cool time for him to wake you up. And I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about the actual numbers on the clock. So sometimes if you wake up and you instantly notice the time, sometimes the Lord will prompt you to maybe pay attention to the time. So let's say, for instance, the other day I woke up and I'm trying to remember what time it was. Let's just say 5:20, for lack of a better word. Literally, you can go to Google and you can type in scriptures. Hang on, I'm going to do this while I'm talking. Scriptures with 5:20. Now, I'm not saying you're necessarily going to find anything, but if you happen to notice the clock and you're like, why this time? Why every time? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I've woke up at 5:20 every day. Well, you could maybe perhaps look up the time, but just in scripture version. So when I type in scriptures with 5:20, the first thing that comes up is James 5:20, which says, whoever turns a sinner from the error of their way will save them from death and cover a multitude of sins. So it's kind of cool. Like maybe God's given you a little clue as to something you can pray specifically for the people you feel burdened for in the middle of the night. And so I just want to encourage you with that today. If the Lord is awakening you in the middle of the night, he trusts you to do some time investment to the things that are important on his heart. And I encourage you, we're called to be watchmen on the wall, right? Is what the Bible talks about. And so heed that call for us to pray when it's inconvenient, but God has our undivided attention. I know when I wake up, in the middle of the night and I cannot get back to sleep, boy, I hear every little noise. I hear every little bump thing that goes bump in the middle of the night, right? And so in the silence, sometimes in the darkness, God has our undivided attention. Pay attention to the things that he's bringing to your mind and give some prayer time to those. So I hope this was encouraging to somebody today. If it was, would you share this podcast? I know I try to a lot of times tie these things in with business. And I know that this didn't really have to do with business, but perhaps maybe share this particular podcast episode with another person who's been waking up in the middle of the night, somebody that's a believer, but maybe doesn't really recognize that we're often called in the nighttime to pray and intercede for other people. But if you wouldn't mind sharing this podcast with just one person today, I'd appreciate it. And let me know in my Instagram DMs if you're someone who is waking up and praying as well. So bless you, my friends. This is important work. I believe it counts towards eternity. So bless you as you go about your week. Bye-bye.